Good evening, and welcome to the July 19th, 2021 meeting of the Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission. Melissa, would you get us started with roll call, please?
Commissioner Cranston,
Here.
Commissioner McDowell,
Here.
Commissioner Lean,
Here.
Commissioner Tate,
Here.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Wood, Commissioner Tenbrink.
I see Commissioner Wood is just at the door, so we'll make her say here when she comes in. Brief pause, folks. We're waiting for you to say here, Christy. Melissa, would you like to go ahead and call her again?
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum tonight. Can I ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jim to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners tonight have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items?
None here?
No.
Okay, there are none. And that moves us on to approval of the April 19th, 2021 meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look them over? And
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
motion's been made by Commissioner Tate and seconded by motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to approve the April 19th meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Bill, that brings us to staff report.
Thank you, Commissioners. So we've got a few things to get caught up on. We haven't seen you for a little while. Our recreation program is running strong and fast. Adult softball is winding down. The end of next month, we had over 1,200 participants in that program. Our youth baseball, ages 5 to 12, ends at the end of this month, and we had about 300 participants in 8 divisions. Youth golf lessons, 6 to 9, ends in July, at the end of July, and we had about 25 kids for 2 different sessions. And our adult pickleball lessons started July 19th, 4 weeks. We had about 90 participants for 2 sessions. And then swim lessons for registrations Monday, July 26th, and we roughly had about 180 participants. And then we're planning a community yard sale here at City Hall. We were going to do it last year, but due to pandemic, we didn't do that. But August 21st, so they'll have an opportunity for folks to sign up and come out there and have maybe a little, yard sale out there in the lower parking lot of the City Hall. So that'll be fun. We also had a pickleball tournament that the Pickleball Association has had for several years now. It was a great, they did a very nice job. They had over 300 participants, and it was July 8th through the 11th. They were going to have about 50 or 60 people from Canada, but Canada got kind of shut down and couldn't let people across the border, and so they were unable. But they would have been up over 300 folks if they had not, the Canadians couldn't make it. So it was a good event. They did a nice job. In the park side of business, I shared this with council about some vandalism problems we've been having. Our superintendent, Jeff Erickson, had said to me that he's never seen vandalism as bad this year as we've had in previous years. So let's see, it was the weekend before July 12th, so the 10th and 11th. We had a rash of vandalism that took place that weekend. Bluegrass, someone tore the fixtures off the bathroom walls, all the paper fixtures. Landings, people were defecating in the sinks and the urinal. Atlas Park has a returning person several times a week in the last month that smears feces on the wall in a women's restroom. McEwen doors were kicked in, and by trying to pry off the locks, so we had to bring a locksmith out to get those fixed up. And then also at McEwen, they kicked off about 10 or 15 sprinkler heads, and these are about $40 a pop. So our fix to some of this is we're going to close those restrooms down for a bit and just put porta potties. I don't have staff to fix all these things up. It takes about 25% of our staff's time to go fix and repair this stuff. Persons, for example, had ongoing vandalism there. We cleaned it up, made the repairs, and then the following weekend they vandalized it again. So we locked it up and for a few days and then opened it back up. To our dismay, it got vandalized again. So it's been closed now for some time with the porta potty out there. Bill? So, we just put up signs that says closed due to vandalism, and that's about all we can do right now. But just as an FYI to you.
I think Jim has a question, Bill.
Have you guys considered looking at cameras?
Well, it's a funny deal about cameras, and, we don't have cameras in outlying parks. We do have the conduit for cameras at Atlas, but the other ones I mentioned, not so much. We'd have to have game cameras. They wouldn't be connected to our system, so someone would have to be spending a lot of time going through a bunch of pictures about who's coming and going, and the problem, we don't know who's who, and there's no timestamp on when the vandalism occurred. So you could walk in, and we might think it's you, but I could walk in, it was really me, and we don't know really when the damage occurred.
Gotcha.
See, because we can't put cameras on the inside, obviously.
Correct.
So there'd be cameras on the outside, so it's a difficult
Gotcha.
tracking mechanism. I talked with Chief White about it, and he said, well, that's true, yet they do have the usual suspects, so to speak, that they might be able to recognize and maybe pin something on someone else that they may have caught doing the same kind of problem, damage.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
I was going to suggest the same thing, Bill. You've got to have something.
Right.
And it'd be great if we could catch some of these perpetrators and prosecute them to the fullest extent possible.
And I agree with you 100%, but let me tell you a little sidebar story about the problem with this situation. We have caught juveniles before, and we seek restitution. The last one was a family who didn't have any money, so there was no monetary stuff. So the deal was this boy was going to come and work for us. He spent a little bit of time until he disappeared. And I've gone in and actually done restitution face-to-face with the parents and the child about how it affects the public park and our staff to a face-to-face. And it never seems to go anywhere. It's almost like we can't teach them a lesson. So I love to catch them, I love to prosecute them, but quite often these are minors, and what they want to do is put them to work. And I've done this time and time again. I try and pick out a day, okay, the 4th of July, you're going to be out there picking up trash till midnight with us, and they're 14 years old, so they can't stay out till midnight, and then we want them in the park on the 5th to help us out, and they don't show up, and the parents are sort of whatever, they're not, so Chrissy's shaking her head because she's heard this stuff before. Yeah. So, yeah, we're doing what we can, and cameras are probably our solution, but it's a ways out before we can afford to put cameras in at Atlas.
So, Bill, like some of the neighborhood parks like Persons, have you been able to reach out to the neighbors or the neighborhood in that area to kind of help, observe and kind of keep an eye out for any of that type of activity?
Absolutely. Our neighbors are always our eyes and ears out there, and they're always very helpful. But, they're not a policing force, and they can certainly call if they see something, and they do. But unfortunately, this time we haven't had anybody do anything to call the police.
Christie?
Well, that's a really great idea. And I'm happy to chat with the PD about the Block Watch program and have the person in charge work with those neighborhoods and tell them what's happening. Sure. And then, Bill, do you have you close everything by 10, right?
Thereabouts, yes.
So the vandalism's
Christie, can
happening.
I get you to move in front of your mic?
Thank you. Yes, sir. The vandalism is happening before dark? Hard to know.
Well, I don't know, because what happens is, we, being short-staffed, we are outsourcing our lockup. So we have a security company doing that, and then they call us when they go to lock those down and find them vandalized.
I see. Yeah. Bill, I think I'm just going to hang out down at Atlas all night.
Good.
Yeah, why not?
Any more about the vandalism?
No, other than it's depressing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You know, our staff, I have to say this, I give them great kudos. They work real hard. They take a lot of pride in what they do. They treat these parks like it's their own home, and they really, really do work hard. And it's just discouraging, to say the least, when you try and make this presentation for the public and it's taken like this. But they bounce back, and I'm just so proud of them, because they don't let it get under their skin. They just keep on trucking and still get stuff done. So, you know, it just says volumes about our staff. They're wonderful. 4th of July was a good one this year. We were just kind of give you an update on what we did in hours. So because we had carnival rides there, we set them up on Thursday, and they kind of tuned everything up on Friday. And then our staffing hours, I just wanted to kind of share that with you, what we did, because it was a Saturday, Sunday show, and then clean up on Monday. So the total hours for, let's see, the 3rd of July, and overtime hours was 104 hours, and regular hours were 96. That means we had normal people on staff working that day. Instead of working in the parks, doing things that they normally would do, we're in the park watching what was going on and taking care of City Park. So those 96 hours were sort of a giveaway to the event. And so those were for the 4th, and the 3rd, and the 4th. So that was a total of 200 hours just on those days. And then on the 5th, we had overtime. Everybody had that day off. The folks that came in to take care of that, they spent 32 hours cleaning up the park on Monday the 5th. So they did a good job. City Park always is healthy. It recovers really, really well. And then we had received, speaking of Atlas, we received some recognition for Atlas Park. I'll bring this up and you can pass it up to everybody.
Very nice.
So Monty and I worked together on an application to AIC, and we were nominated #1 in Parks and Recreation for Atlas Park. Mike Anderson, wastewater superintendent, took these flyovers for us just so we could see, you know, the scope of this thing. And this was before all the grass was in, but you guys have walked it. Christy lives out there. Every time I'm there, she's always there. So anyway, it's a wonderful park, and we got some really nice recognition. And so I just wanted to bring it to your attention that we got this award, and it was, you know, it's really an honor, honestly.
It's wonderful. Bill, are you going to be presenting the award at council?
I received it at council.
Oh, I missed that meeting.
You missed that one. I was hoping you were there because you're such an Atlas
Way to
fan.
rat myself.
You were not at the park when I was there, though. I
Darn
did not
it.
see you.
We have to call each other.
So we're working with Rotary Club on the Sherman Square parcel. This is the plan that we've come up, or that they've come up with. We've sat down a few times. Troy, I, and Hillary are going to be at the Rotary Club on Friday at the resort to talk through some more of this. But anyway, it's a nice design. John Mueller's done the work. We've been meeting with John Young and going through this stuff. Our MOU is about done for the club, and so this thing will start moving forward, and hopefully here near the end of this season we can start breaking ground on some things. What we've done here a little different is that we've been allowed to lose a few stalls along Sherman to allow this to come out and kind of feel like it's part of the park itself. And so we thought that was a pretty good move. It brings people in. There's, I think, 15 or so benches around here. There's a small water wall feature over here that is proposed. There's lighting throughout. The multi-use is going to be a stage with the proper power outlets there for possible music venue, and that's about it.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Oops, that's the wrong one, sorry. Is that right there? Yeah. So we've been talking about the East Sherman Park. Our crew with the street department has worked through this, and there were two parcels. The one parcel near 15th, closer to 15th, is done and completed, and the turf is in, and it's coming up. This is the one closer to Moontime, and I had to remove a few trees just because by the time we got the sidewalk in and the parking in, we actually removed one light pole, and I think I pulled, was it 4 trees maybe? Yes. Yeah. And so what we're waiting on now, the irrigation is in, but we're waiting for Avista to do the power startup on the site so we can then install the irrigation clock and get it fired up before we seed it. We've got a dozen or so trees that'll go in there, and within a couple of weeks, we should have the seed down and the trees in. We might have a few trees that we haven't picked up. A couple species are kind of hard to find. We're looking for some red cedars over here and a hemlock there. We may just have to put those in at a later date when we can find them, but that's not a big deal.
Bill, I'm wondering how the heat has been affecting your keeping the parks in shape.
It's not been easy. And that was on my list to talk about a little bit. As you bring it up, I'll tell you now, we are on an every other day watering schedule. So if you see the parks looking a little peaked, more than they normally look a little better. So you'll have some spots that have got some pretty bad burn spots in it because of that. The one park that always does really well with lack of water is City Park. It's got great soil, and that's the real key about everything. It's not always about the delivery system, the water delivery system. It's really about soil conditions as well. And Persons Field is another one that's got great soil conditions. But Ramsey Park, terrible soil conditions. It's burning up pretty bad. But a lot of the parks, when they're done, we're really planting stuff on rock. And so if you get a windy day and you don't water and it's hot as it has been, you're going to have a whole bunch of burn up. So that's why I bring it to your attention, so when you drive around town and want to know why it's burning up. We're helping Terry Pickle, Water Department Superintendent. There's not a problem with the aquifer. It's a problem with his delivery. There's too much demand and he can't keep up.
Right.
And so he's asked us to go to an every other day schedule, and that's what we're doing to help out.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. We're trying. And I think that's about all for the updates.
Question for you, Bill. Has there been any recreation softball scheduling or games played at the new Memorial Field complex?
We've used it a few times internally, and the NIC used it some, yes.
Yeah.
And we've got a little spot near first base. I've got a problem with it holding too much water. When they were doing the construction, they ran through that area a bunch, so we may have to go in there and get a hoe in there and create a bit of a dry well or something. We have some, it's just holding a little too much, but yes, we have.
Okay. I was going to make this comment during commissioner comments, but I'll say it now. Kind of knowing what you've been going through the last several months with your staff shortage for seasonal workers and having all the staff to share responsibilities and rescheduling and giving up their weekends and all that. I want to express, and I think I speak for the commission, and express our amazement and appreciation for you and your staff and
Thank you.
all the hard work
I'll
and
convey that to
dedication
them.
and pride you've taken in all our public spaces and facilities. And, to the passerby, wouldn't know or understand the issues you've been going through. And so,
Well, thank you. And I have to tell you, I
Appreciate it.
give a lot of that credit to Jeff Erickson. He's really keeping the staff morale up. He's put together with Robert Cooper, who runs our cemetery, who happens to be a barbecue fiend and has done some tri-tip, and he made his own sausages, and we had a hot dog feed and trying to keep everybody's morale high. So it's kudos to those guys for, taking initiative to kind of keep that camaraderie going, and it's working because staff's doing a great job. Thank you.
Christie?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just had a couple of follow-up questions, Bill. You said the parcel near 15th is done. Is that open?
Not quite yet. It's still, the grass it's struggling with the heat. It's a little too hot. And so we're kind of trying to keep a seeding program watering on that without using too much water.
Sure.
But it's not quite firmed up yet enough. So all it is going to be green space. And so it just is an opportunity for people, once it's established, to go grab a hamburger and whatever and go sit down in a park. We're not going to do anything with it with trees or benches, but it's just green space, better than a weed patch that it would have been if we hadn't cultivated it.
Agree. And then, so the other one that's closer to noontime, that'll be a ways out then?
Yeah, that's probably going to be at least another month before maybe people can get on it. Because if Avista does what we hope, it will be charged, our power will be on next week. We can get everything fine-tuned. We have finish grade to do, plant trees, and we still have a porta potty structure to build. We don't know if I can put a porta potty in place without the structure. We just haven't, again, had time. We milled some of that lumber ourselves. So during some of these storms, we were able to get some good wood. And so we have a Alaskan mill, and we put the timbers together, dimensional wood, to build it ourselves. And
That's
Mike
great.
Kempton has done a really good job on a couple of others where he did the design and put it all together, and it's a little lean-to structure, and it looks really good. And so, yeah, so it'd be about a month out.
And then one final question. You're still dealing with the staff shortage, and I agree with the chairman. The crew's done an amazing job with the difficulties you've faced. We had talked, I think a month or so ago, maybe it was at council, that maybe you'd reach out to NIC for them to mow some of those common areas. Did you ever do that, or?
They're having some of the same staffing problems we're having, and they're a little preoccupied with all of the new irrigation they're putting in on the south side of the campus. I was out there checking on them today, so I think they've got their hands full.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bill.
Anything else for Bill? Thank you. Okay, so do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements at this time? Okay. Are there any public comments that aren't related to one of the agenda items tonight? There are none. Okay, that puts us on to the Tubbs Hill ambassadors.
So there's a familiar face in the crowd here, Dave Yaden, and you may not know Dave Taylor, but they are both chair and co-chair, yes, of the Tubbs Hill Foundation. Well, why don't you guys come up to the podium? They came up to me, been about a year ago now, talk about an ambassador program. And so I want to bring them here to talk to you about it. We've implemented that. We had a meeting, their last meeting was a week ago, and we talked through what it is. So I thought it'd be important for you guys to understand what we're doing to try and get some public awareness that we're up to on Tubbs.
If you guys just state your name for the record, the floor is yours.
We're the two Davids.
The two
David
Daves.
Yaden.
David Taylor,
And I'm the president of the foundation,
Vice President.
and we're here to give you a little information about this idea that came up a little over a year ago now. I was walking on Canfield Mountain with Steve McCrae and Terry Porcarelli. And Steve was talking to me, he's a real lover of Tubbs Hill, and he said, Tubbs Hill's being loved to death, And I've been places where they have a program where people are on the hill to educate and different things, and I'd volunteer, at least a couple days a week to do that. And funny thing is, I'd been thinking about the same thing. David and I have been in other places, up in the cabinets and different things where they have an ambassador program to help educate people about mountain goats up on Scotchman Peak and things of that nature. So we looked around and did some research, and there's lots of models to use, and we thought that'd be a great idea, and the foundation talked about it and said, let's talk to Bill about it and see if he's even interested in this, because we don't want to we want to be a partnership with the city, but we thought it was a good idea. Bill jumped on it right away. I mean, he was like teeth into it. He says, I'm with you, I want to go, let's do it. COVID came along, and so that really illustrated the need during that time because people started flocking to Tubbs Hill. It was crazy. It was like summertime use in the middle of winter, and as well as the other parks. But we were trying to get this program started. We wanted to do vests like REI and things of that nature. And we tried to figure out sources, and we were scrambling to put things together, and we were going out in our regular T-shirts and talking to people on the Hill. We were eventually able to put a program together, an idea, and we were able to get vests that we have that were out on the Hill. We currently have 10 folks. Most of them are off the board. And we have Steve McRae and Terry Porcarelli, my wife, that are non-board members. But we've gone through some training. We've met with Bill to go over, what's the proper role, who do we call if there's issues. We are ambassadors. We're there for information. We're trying to be eyes on the Hill for you. Our hope is that we can identify for the city and for us as an organization some areas that we may be able to work on, whether it be signage issues where people are always confused, or with this trail that's being eroded that we haven't noticed. We see people going down there. If we see a pattern of where people are taking dogs off leash, or if they're trashing the Hill, which we're trying to pick up all the time, that we can identify those, report those to the city, and we can work towards that. The biggest thing is in the summertime, we have lots of people that really love the Hill and want to hike there, and they're wanting to know, where do I go? Where do I go? How do I get back to the resort? How do I get to here? What's that flower? What's that bird up there? Where's a good place to eat? Where can I kayak? There's all sorts of information that's coming forth. We're trying to collate and coalesce information as it comes in so we can get a feel for the types of questions so we can fine tune this over time if we need to. And so far, just to keep it short here, we've been doing this with our vest for a couple weeks maybe, and the few of us have been out there. It's amazing how many people identify, and it's a magnet. People are talking to us. My wife and I were out for 2 hours today, and we had people from Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, talking to us about all sorts of different things. So our initial thought is it's really going to be something that's well appreciated, and I think for us as an organization, hopefully for the city, and that we can give feedback to you. So I don't know if there's anything else, if you'd like to add anything. If you have any questions for us, that'd be great. But before I do that, I want to you gave kudos to the staff. And we've been working on a lot of projects on Tubbs Hill. We've been bugging Monty all the time. We've been bugging Bill. We've been bugging the urban forestry program. We've been saying, we want to do this. We want to do that. We want to help out with that. And these guys have really stepped up. I call Monty and say, we want to do a trail day and things like that. And he says, geez, I'm packed. I'm being pulled every which way. And somehow he talks to Bill and things, and he's come through for us in a lot of things. We've talked about trees, and we want to help out with tree planting in the spring. So I want to really give a good kudos to those guys too, because having the city hat on for 40 years, I know when you get in a tight spot and trying to do a whole lot of stuff with a lot of few people, and the staff doesn't always get recognition, so I want to pile it on here, so appreciate that. So, Scott, anybody else?
Questions for Dave or Dave?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Thank you. Well, these guys are busy. I am liaison for council, and so I get all the emails from this group, and there's no daylight that you're not doing something for Tubbs Hill. It's just really, this community is so fortunate to have Friends of the Tub Hill and the foundation that just works so hard, and our staff to have you. So that I just wanted to pile it back at you. But then I also wanted to ask if you, and Bill can answer too, the ambassador program is just tremendous, and I see it as being a huge, wonderful resource for public safety, both police and fire. So do they have their appropriate numbers? Do all the ambassadors know exactly who to call? And have you met some of the sergeants, both police and fire?
No,
so that
we
you feel
haven't, we have not been
comfortable?
introduced. We just exchanged numbers.
Okay. I think they would really enjoy that. The first thing that you'll be able to do is when they need to hike up there, you can tell them where they are and where they're supposed to be, because it's just too massive. And if you're not on it every day like you guys, you don't know, you have no idea. You're learning, sometimes patrolmen are learning for the first time. They aren't out hiking Tubbs Hill all the time. So I think that'd be fantastic for you to meet your contacts at police and fire.
Sounds
I think
good.
it's an outstanding program, just teaching people to be good stewards of the hill.
Yeah. Just a question for you, Dave's. In a given week, about how many hours are you guys able to have ambassadors out on the hill?
Well, we thought about trying to get volunteers to go out at specific times during the week and different things. And to some degree, we're going a little free form at the moment because it's your volunteers, your people. If they can get out there and do things, that's great. So I think the volunteers are out there, depends on who. If you're somebody like Kim Ashbaugh, who's out there picking up garbage and trash all the time, she's out there 6 hours a day or more.
Wow.
If you're people like David and I, we're going out for to look at the ospreys or hike around the hill with our vests on, 1 to 2 hours maybe. I'm running the hill or something like that. I'm 30 minutes or whatever. So, but there's a lot of volunteer hours that are going in by those people. I know Steve and Terry are out there at least 3 or 4 times a week for an hour circling the hill, because Terry will go up and down and all around to visit all the osprey nests by name, and things of that nature. So
I think we've
That's great.
maybe I personally have adjusted my time a little. I was an early morning person from like 7 to 8:30. Well, that's not particularly productive because most of the people that are on the hill at between 7:30 or 7 and 8:30 are locals that they know what's going on. And so I've tended to try midday because that's when you see the most visitors out walking along the hill. And also, especially after noon, could be the most problematic because of the heat we've had. So, like, for example, I carry a bottle of water along just in case, because I know Dave's wife Mary has run into this also. People can get very overheated. And so you might have to be. So anyway, I've adjusted my walking schedule a little bit, so I'm trying to do a couple hours during midday when it's kind of the core walking time for the visitors that probably are the most in need of any help.
Well, kudos to all of you. I think that's a fantastic proactive way to get the proper message out in a very, I think, friendly way. So good job. I really like it.
Jenny?
I wanted to add for the Daves that I do appreciate what you're doing with the heat, and especially with the fire danger this year. It is more important than ever, the service that you are giving to the community. And I imagine you have unknowingly warded off many problems. So I did want to say thank you.
I mean, like we say, eyes on the hill, we're trying to look out for those things. And I talk to Kenny often, about fire danger and things of that nature, and even with our trail projects, as we try to close trails and we anticipate, well, is that going to be an issue for fire in the future? So it's not a one and done kind of thing that we're doing. It's constant observation of what you have done and how you may have to modify that after the trail successfully closed, remove some of that material so we don't have fire danger. And that's a partnership issue that we work with Parks and Fire Department on.
Well, thank you so much.
So I have one thing to add, excuse me. So I really appreciate the kudos, but I got to give it back to you. These two Dave and Dave show here have really stepped up the game on what's going on the hill. And it's been a real pleasure because it really spearheaded trail projects and you know, they were out there helping with some of the timber that was down and clearing off trails. And Dave went out there with his own saw and was helping. And so it's just been really a pleasure to have these two guys just taking the lead out there and just going after it. So, you know, kudos to both you guys. Appreciate it very much.
And let us know if there's anything this body can help with, even if it's coming to a regular meeting that are broadcast for announcements or reports or anything that you need to do for messaging to
Good to know.
let
We'll be
the
back.
public or the community know what needs to be done.
One last thing, are you guys recruiting volunteers? Do you need more folks, or?
We do trail days. We've had a lot of people sign up. We have a regular group of people that have signed, I want to be notified of when you're doing trail work or things of that nature. So we'll get, depending on the project and what we really need, we've had from 5 to 25 people working on a particular trail day project. It's things like the cleanup days, where you've got our 500 people are notified of that are on our mailing list of that. And if we have something special, we put the word out, here we come. Because that's another thing, by being on the Hill, is whether we're wearing these T-shirts, but especially the vest, where the ambassador seems to flag it more than what this did. People are saying, gee, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. How can I help? Oh, okay, well, here's where you contact and we'll let you know, so.
Good, great.
And I think on the ambassador, we kind of viewed it this summer as a pilot. So we kind of had a core group that we focused on. When we get done with the summer, get a feel for how effective it was, there may be opportunities there to expand that group to a little bit larger. But we kind of wanted to get a feel for the first year to see how productive it was and if additional people were necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, ambassadors, the core group, all of us are pretty knowledgeable at the Hill, the history and things of that nature. So there isn't a lot of training to do for us. Well, there's training to do. Don't do that. Don't do that, Dave. Don't yell at them. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you both.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, we have another information item regarding Fernan fire reduction.
Hello, committee members. Sorry, I'm trying to get this full screen if I can. All right, so it's a pleasure to be here in front of the committee again today, sitting down, but I'm here. So here to give an update and overview of the Fernan Lake Natural Area Hazard Field Treatment. That's been an ongoing project and has one that's faced a lot of delays since its inception and beginning since I got here. When I first got here, we dealt with a government shutdown that lasted almost a year, and we'll held this project up almost a year because of waiting for our MOU to come from the federal government. Then we had COVID-19 shortly after that, which held up all of our public meetings and planning meetings for quite some time. So, but through that, we are here and work has begun. So first I'll give a brief overview of the project itself. So the driving force behind the project is public safety in the event of a wildfire. This area, Armstrong Park, is one of our wildland-urban interface areas that has one way in and one way out. So it is really important for us to mitigate what we can to keep the fire risk down in this area. We have multiple groups working on this project. The Idaho Department of Lands is assisting, and they're helping us with the later burn that is planned. Local match is provided by in-kind services by both the county and the city. The Dispensable Space Plan, the DSP, is put together by our project manager, the City Coeur d'Alene, and private landowners. And those are the two property owners that are involved. It's the City Coeur d'Alene, private property owners, the ITD, and then the county. Grant priorities, Fernan Natural Area and Armstrong Park. Community involvement, Armstrong Park chipping program. So we had a chipping program that took place early on for people in the Fernan Hill and Armstrong Park. That program is run by the county. They sign up properties from the area to come, and they will come and chip things from your private property free of charge. You sign up for the program. They come to your frontage and chip it out into the natural area. That program was successful. There are talks of doing another chipping program in the future. Other projects in the Armstrong Park area, if funding is available. So with that, at the end of the project, if we have funds, we look to expand the work that we're doing through this project. The project objectives is to save lives and protect property. That's the number one priority here. And also, it's really to ensure that people have time to get off the hill if there is a fire. And of course, is to support that natural area's special values. I mean, we've been working with the Audubon Society. The project manager's done a great job of working with us and the fire department and trying to make sure that this project doesn't come as a clear-cut type of look. We're really looking for a mosaic look when the work is complete on the hill, so we don't lose that natural beauty of the natural area that exists. We want it to look like a natural area with trails when we're done, not a clear-cut logging area. So fuel treatment, we're looking at 29 acres total treated. When we first proposed this project, we had, I believe, 14 total acres. We've expanded that. We're now at 29 acres. Mechanical fuel treatment, which I'll get to what that looks like here, is 13 acres. Hand fuel treatment, we've got 14 acres. We are currently in phase 1, which is cutting and piling by the contractor. Phase 2 is scheduled for fall 2021. That's pile burning, and once again, we are being helped by the Idaho Department of Lands with that project. The I-90 exit ramp transportation department is 2 acres. That was hand treatment, and it's already been completed. So if you go by there, you will see that that has been done if you've been to Fernand Lake recently. And then we're doing a cut stump herbicide treatment. So once we do the cut, we've been treating with an herbicide to get a kill down on what we're cutting. The goal with that is to keep this work that we're doing in place for as long as possible. So we have a general map here, and if you can see, the mechanical treatment areas are highlighted in the bright red, with the handwork treatment areas. This is what the site looks like now. We're going to be bringing a machine that looks similar to this in here. It is a track hoe machine with a masticating attachment. So that's going to come in. It is going to be taking that, that 9-bark, that ocean spray, that hazardous fuel, and trimming it down to close to ground level, where we will then plan to do an herbicide treatment to keep that from growing back. We'll also be removing some dead trees, and then you're also going to be coming in and limbing those trees up to reduce those dead fuels underneath that we call ladder fuels. Now this portion of the work was scheduled to be underway right now, but with the weather and the fire order in place, we have had to postpone it. So most likely this work is going to take place this fall. Now, should weather conditions not be appropriate in the fall, let's say it's too wet, because that won't be our call, that will be the machine operator's call. He's not going to do the work if it's not safe for him. But the good thing about this grant is it will go to 2023. So the work we get done, if we have to postpone it, which is not our goal, but if we have to postpone it, we have the opportunity to do so, and I have been assured by the county that there also will be an opportunity to file for extensions given the hardships that we faced in bringing this work to fruition. So hand treatment, as I said, I have some pictures of this actual work now. This is just some examples of what the hand treatment looks like when they are performing it, basically removing this dead material, these heavily brushed areas, and thinning them and reducing that and piling for later burns. Burning will look similar to what you see here, where they come through, they burn these piles. Right now it's planned for the fall, and with the ideal being you have these burnt areas, but overall a nice clean finished look when it's done. So project goals, we have habitat tree retention, which would be snags that you see. The goal is not to remove all the snags. We want to keep about 1-to-10 ratio, and we want to make sure that we've got habitat trees for the birds, insects, and everything else that are on the hill, because it is a natural area. Non-native species removal. If we see Nora maple, if we have cherry trees that are grown by our invasive species coming in through bird waste, we're removing that material. We're leaving a lot of the native plants in clumps to try to promote that activity on the hill and keep it as natural as possible. Promotion of desirable species, such as white pine, hemlock, western red cedar. We are keeping those species. We have a no-cut order on all those species on the hill. We also have a standing no-cut on anything that is over 7-inch DBH and living. So at this time, there's no plans to remove a lot of living trees from the hill that are of any real substantial size. And then, of course, we'll follow that with planting programs of desirable species on the hill. Increased visibility, improved security. Our hope is that when you're on the hill, when we're on the hill, or when the police department are on the hill, they can have a better opportunity to see people who may be illegally camped. If you're on the lake, you may be able to see that. Increase the chances of us being able to eliminate the fire danger before it begins by getting those people who might be up to no good on the hill off the hill so we can see them. And once again, I've been working with the local Audubon Society to try to ensure a healthy bird habitat. We are taking as many steps as possible to not hinder that habitat at all for the birds, especially the nesting eagles on site that they're not on right now, but we want to keep their nest intact and where they and give them opportunity to continue nesting. So public safety during the operations, we have had signage up at most trails. That is up to the discretion of the contractor, how he wants to close off the trail sections, because of course we can't be up there with him all day, every day. They're in charge of where they're doing the work and where the trail closures need to happen. They also have discretion about if they need to close the parking lot, but we are in communication with them, and so far that hasn't had to happen. I think the only time we're gonna see any full trail closures is when we actually do mechanical treatment, because that's just too dangerous for anyone to be on site. So number one key is safety, and just like I said, so when the machine's on site, most likely those trails will be closed. Burning safety is going to be number one. We're working really close with the fire department to keep the upcoming burn as safe as possible, and ITD are great at what they do, and I fully trust them to come in and do a good job this year. Post-project goals, so the plans, which is after the work is complete. We have plans of coming in and doing native grass seeding in the areas where we've treated to try to promote that growth as opposed to the species we don't want on site. And then, of course, we'll be working with our staff that already does a great job maintaining the hill to do weed control, and then I will be helping to coordinate tree plantings in the future. The goals are to improve the trail access and condition and to keep those fuel breaks intact once the work is complete. So this is the completed work map as of right now. So as you can see, the entire work area is shown in the blue for handwork is shown in the blue highlighted region, the blue outlined area, and these highlighted areas that you can see, the light blue and then this purple color here. This is the work that's completed right now. I do think the contractor had hoped to be farther along at this point. The weather has not been our friend. As far as they've had to pull off the hill, usually about noon, afternoon. It's too hot for them to safely continue working on the hill running saws. Once we get cooler weather, hopefully we will be making further progress. They are on the hill working this week, will be next week. At this point, there's no plans to pull them off unless we get really hot temperatures again. And once again, that is a call by the contractor. So right now, I have some pictures of the work that's been completed. You can see these are from my phone, so kind of a balloon lens for me walking. But you can see, so these areas, you can see the piles here. All this has been removed. You can see the difference in how thick this is back here, and then about 100 feet out versus what we're looking at now. Same here, and you can see here, this is where they have been doing the cut treatment. So you can see the dieback and the control we're getting with that. It's been really successful. On that note, one of the biggest delays that they've had has to do with our herbicide treatment. Once it gets over 90 degrees, you cannot treat with that particular herbicide. And also, of course, rain, if it rains, if we do have rain, which would be nice, that would keep us from being able to treat as well. So there are some talks about, in order to continue doing work, as treating some areas with doing a treatment at bud out this spring, and bringing a contractor in to do that spraying, so that the crews can take advantage and try to get as much work this year done as possible. So I'm working with the project manager, Steve Bladel, on that. And we're looking at that as an option to try to keep the work ongoing. The herbicide has been successful where it's been sprayed, but it has caused some delay to the work. This is just more areas of treatment. You can see here, we're working with the contractor to try to get some of these piles stacked a little bit tighter and larger. These are old pictures from when we first went up to inspect the work. They're in much better shape now. But you can see, once again, all this treatment area and that dieback that we're getting. And these are the areas where we will come back and do native grass seeding. So here's just an adjusted work timeline. As I mentioned, the herbicide application has been altered, but will be likely a lot of it's going to be a follow-up application at bud out in the spring. The mechanical work has been delayed. I'm really confident we're going to get that work done this fall. Unless we have a really, really wet fall, I don't see any reason why we won't have the machine on the hill this year. But like I said, if the contractor decides that he can't do the work, then we have an opportunity to get it done next spring. And then as of right now, there's roughly about $60,000 in extra funds that we are looking. We have several ideas on how to utilize that. Now, that being said, that depends on what our herbicide treatment that we have to add on to this looks like. It depends on what we actually have at the close of project versus saying, let's tie $50,000 of extra treatment to this right this moment. So the team is working on that. We have some ideas that I don't want to say too much right now because I don't want to promise anything, but if we can get some of the other projects we have in mind, be pretty exciting. So other than that, I have nothing else to say. That's my update for the commission, and happy to stand for any questions.
Well, very comprehensive report and informative. A lot of detail involved.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, just one quick question. This is a federal grant, right? Federal or state?
Yeah, this is a federal grant, but it's worked as a multi-state. It's just a multi-agency project.
And, okay, so we don't have a breakdown of the amount for Coeur d'Alene because you're really working with a lot of different agencies?
I don't have it at this time, but I believe that the match amount is $25,000 in-kind match that we're providing. That's included mainly in staff time between myself and Bobby Gonder, and then, of course, any of the other city staff that's involved in any of the process. During the planning phases, when Monty McCoy was involved, his hours were logged for that. Bill Greenwood's hours have been logged for that. So really, it's not a monetary match as much as it is a match of hours.
And then, Nick, I was trying to look on the map. Does this encompass any of that natural park up there or not?
So are you speaking of Veteran Centennial
Yes.
Park? So that is one of the areas where we have, right now it does not.
Okay.
We do have a couple areas where we're looking at possibly expanding some existing fuel breaks in that area if the funds become available. But really, in the risk assessment that was really done by the fire department, this was the highest area of need.
Great. Thank you.
It makes sense with the topography.
Well, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you for your time.
Our next item is an action item regarding the Coeur Memorandum of Understanding. The decision point tonight, should the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend to City Council that the city enter into an MOU with Jason Evans to manage the Coeur as a city natural park and with Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for a law enforcement mutual aid agreement. Jason Evans originally purchased the 135-acre Coeur property located at the end of Shattuck Lane and adjacent to the city-owned Canfield Mountain Natural Area Park with the intention of opening it to the public for hiking and mountain biking. This property is located outside the city limits. Kootenai County contacted Jason and let him know that a special use permit would be required in order to operate the park for the public. After viewing the permit language, he realized he would be responsible for all the enforcement within the park boundaries, which would be difficult to do. Jason approached the city to see if we would be interested in partnering with him to make this property function like a park. Under the Memorandum of Understanding, his property will be considered a natural park and will be managed by the Parks Department with all rules posted at the trailhead addressing hours of operation, and the prohibition of fires, camping, alcohol, smoking, fireworks, and unauthorized motor vehicles. The city will also be entering into an agreement with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office for enforcement of these rules since the property is in the county. Mr. Evans is currently building trails on the property according to a master plan created with the Parks Department and is following city trail building practices. After the MOU is accepted, the Parks Department will be responsible for the construction and maintenance of the trails, and we will rely on Jason to help with these projects and ongoing maintenance and oversight of the park. There is on-street parking available on Shattuck Lane from North 22nd Street to North Copper Way. This section of road is 32 feet wide and meets our standards for streets with parking on both sides. The houses along this stretch are double frontage lots and have residential parking on the streets in front of each home, meaning this stretch of road is rarely, if ever, used by the residents for parking. The only financial impact on the city will be staff time for litter pickup and projects to build or maintain trails. This will be done with current staffing. Entering into an MOU to manage this property as a city natural park will give the public an additional natural area for hiking and biking, which was identified in our Parks Recreation Master Plan. Our natural areas are in high demand and see a great deal of use, and this additional open space will help take some of the pressure off areas like Tubbs Hill. Again, the decision point of recommendation tonight, the Parks and Recreation Commission should recommend that the city enter into an MOU with Jason Evans to manage the concourse as a city natural park and Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement mutual aid agreement. With that report, then I'll pass it off to you, Monty, and
Right,
give us a
evening,
little more
Commissioners.
detail.
Well, all three items tonight are all of our natural areas.
Yeah.
Well, this project is exciting to me. One of the first projects I got to do with the city when I came on almost 15 years ago was to build trails in Canfield Natural Park. Over the course of 3 years, we used Boy Scouts and church groups, all kinds of volunteer labor to build the trails, almost 2 miles of trails throughout Canfield Natural Park. Then Jason Evans came along. He was a homeowner on the south side of that property, and he offered them, made an offer to purchase that property, and he bought the property. Now, Jason is really into giving back to the community, and he's an avid biker, and he decided that he wanted to open that up to the public. And he's been working for a couple of years now on making this a reality. And so he couldn't be here tonight. He's in Wyoming biking across the state. So this is private property, but it will be managed like a city park. So it won't be city ordinances that the Sheriff's Department will be enforcing, but they will be very similar. There'll be rules that Jason and the city agree upon for what the appropriate behavior will be in the park. And we'll have those posted on a trailhead. So with that, open it up to questions.
Questions for Monty?
Just one. Monty, how far along is the discussion with the Sheriff's Department on the MOU?
We have an MOU with them because we originally met with
So
Wolfinger.
COVID kind of put this on delay. We were trying to get it done before Ben left. And so we had worked up this agreement with him. And then I was in contact with Sheriff Norris, and I think he and I spoke the latter part of February. And he said he would honor what Ben had brought forward to work with us. It's a similar agreement they have, the county, with Park and Post Falls. So Ben gave us that language, and so our attorney took that MOU and you know, creatively massaged it to fit our needs. And so everybody's on board with it.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
That does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Monty, it's a great trail system. We took our granddaughters up there about 9 months ago. And gorgeous views of the city, lots of wildlife to be seen, and just really a nice area to be a natural area for the adjoining property owners and for the citizens at large. So I think it's a great addition.
Yeah, and it's getting a lot of use. The first few years, it was relatively unknown, kind of like Fernan is now. But it's become more and more popular, and we've seen a high number of users up there, and we are hoping that it takes some of the pressure off of Tubbs Hill.
Well, it's a wonderful link that connects the Canfield Natural Area Park, City of Dalton, City of Coeur d'Alene, and linking and continuing trails into the National Forest. It's just a key piece that allows each of these areas to work well together.
I have one more piece to add to this. So Monty and I met with, there's a homeowners association down through here. So the first part of June, he and I met and spent a couple hours with some of the folks that live in this area where you can see the cursor. We talked a little bit about Concourse. We talked more about this park that's been established for 15 plus years. Monty and I worked hard at trying to put up some signage. There are no, you can't prohibit somebody from parking on the city streets because we have, our trail users are in this neighborhood. And so we listened to their concerns, and we put up some more just informational signage that gives people an understanding about, please be courteous to these neighbors and park on this side of the street. And then in addition, Monty's created some signs in this area right here to say there's parking out here on Shattuck Lane. And then on top of that, we've got a sign down at Shattuck Park that says Canfield and Concourse trail users, please park here. And so we're doing what we can to help that neighborhood because most of the folks that are going to be here at the Concourse are going to park here. And what we've asked here as well is that they park back to Copper and they don't park and pull in up to this area where there's gravel. This will be the trailhead. So I spoke with the folks that live over here and over here about that, and they've been very agreeable to everything that we've been working with them on. So just as an update, we have reached out to the neighborhood.
So it's going to be kind of an educational process with the community to kind of understand how they use the streets and
Right.
parking.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, and we're hoping that the Concourse will actually pull some of that overloaded parking down to Shattuck, because a lot of the mountain bikers will park in front of residential houses, or if there's space in front of there's a little spot with maybe 20 cars can park in front of Canfield. When that fills up, they go across the street, and it kind of gets on the neighbors' nerves a little bit. But a lot of those people are mountain bikers, and they're accessing through Canfield. But the trails that Jason has built in Concourse are down towards the south at the end of Shattuck Lane. And so it's a lot easier to go up the hill in Concourse than it is in Canfield. Those are pretty steep. You have to be pretty good at it. So we're hoping that a lot more of the mountain bikers will park down on Shattuck and alleviate some of those parking issues.
Okay. Any other questions for Monty?
I do want to say that in regards to Fernan, I don't know if it's been brought up enough, but Fernan has also been built, those trails, by a volunteer group, and his name is Mark, and he works for New Vision High School in Post Falls, Mark Jones, and he's gone up there for 3 or 4 years, and he brings kids up there from New Vision High School, and they dig those trails like 2 or 3 times a week, just a handful of them. They just keep going all summer long, sometimes into the fall, sometimes into the winter, and they've done almost all of those trails in there. There have been some Eagle Scout
Fantastic.
projects in there, and there's been, the Air Force group has been up there, but it's been mostly those kids doing all that work. And they've actually continued all the way out to the power lines at the very end of the property now, and they're starting to loop back down towards the second bay to bring us back to the water.
Very cool.
So kudos to them
impressive.
as well.
Yeah,
Sounds like some recognition will be in order.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Monty.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I would make a motion then that the Park and Recreation Commission recommend that the City Council enter into an MOU with Jason Evans to manage the Concourse property as a city natural park, and also with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for a law enforcement memorandum of understanding or agreement to enforce the rules there.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to recommend that the city council enter into an MOU with Jason Evans to manage the Can Course as a city natural park and Kootenai County Sheriff's Department for a law enforcement mutual aid agreement to enforce the established rules. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion is unanimous, and where does the recommendation go now, Bill,
General services next Monday.
on Monday?
Monty's going to carry this one without me. I have family in town, so I'll be out with them
What time does general services meet
Noon.
on Monday?
right here.
What time?
At noon, right
At
here.
noon? Okay.
And I don't know if it's, which
Not
one it
my
is.
group.
You're supposed to.
Commissioner Wood to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.